if I just take a moment to listen, hopefully it will help me. Oh man, the moment of solitude. Oh man. On one hand, I'm glad that the rain is here and I'm sitting in this very comfortable, rather old vehicle. But what is old? And what can we consider old? Based on today's standards, it is old. But based on classics, it's not old enough. This is probably going to be my first random video in English, although I am not sure. I'd need to double check on the videos that I have posted on this channel. But this is going to be me just talking out my thoughts, vocalizing them to the wonderful calming sounds of the rain. I choose my car as a place of solitude a lot of the times. A lot of the times I see people around, and with a big amount of people, there's a big amount of chaos, per se. I'm not sure if you have noticed something like that, but people all together in their structure and their intentions with a large amount, I guess we could say per square kilometer, tend to be very chaotic. There's a lot of movement that people create. And sometimes it feels like it is necessary to leave that squared kilometer and find a place where you can be alone. I can be alone. And it's nice to be alone sometimes. Funny, when I was arriving here, I was thinking about the next topic for the next video for the ASMR channel. But it seems that the channel is actually teaching me something all the time. I understand that this might be an unconventional video, the way I frame the shot, the settings that I choose, although a lot of the times those settings choose me. It's a very strange way of looking at it, but maybe unconventional even, where I sort of have a goal, but then I arrive to the location and then all my plans go to craps. Everything that I had planned, or at least I thought that I had a plan, immediately goes out the window. And that thought of the plan goes to waste. What do I do now? Do I just drop everything and go? And it seems that no, I would need to create a new plan. the magnificent randomness of things, where I project something and it never really works out that way. It's fascinating, isn't it? It's fascinating how it works. There's this book that I'm reading right now, and I wouldn't say it's an easy read, but I'm committed to finish that book because it's difficult, and I know that it gives me a good peace of mind. It seems that quite a few people who I have encountered, either online or not so much offline, but still, there is a mentioning of that book. The book is called The Black Swan by Nassim Nicholas Taleb. I find this book fascinating because it contains a tremendous amount of rant. It also contains a tremendous amount of information. There's just a lot of different things that are in this book, and I find that this book is kind of on the deep end and on very counterintuitive in a way. There's just a lot of things that is packed. A lot of things that is packed in this book, and I find it very fascinating. But I also find, what I find fascinating as well is that based on the density of this book and based on how slowly I read it, it literally takes me months. It's taking me months to read it. I find that is every single book that dense. We just read so fast that we kind of forget to chew on ideas in books. And I suppose there are books like that which we sort of read really quickly, which contain a lot of, I guess we could say, water and not particularly important information, or a narrative of the book is you would get an idea and then you would get kind of surrounding material, and a book would go on and on about certain things. I do see that with this book as well, but there's just a lot of reference information in that book as well. A lot of reference to, as he would say, an empirical knowledge obtained through observation and personal experience, and of different people and their skepticism on what others say, and they just say it by transferring information which they have obtained that someone else had said. Hopefully that makes sense. I actually started noticing that as well with myself. I started noticing that sometimes I tend to take information without even double checking on that information as is, as the ultimate truth, and then I carry that information forward even though I have not obtained any empirical knowledge. I have not obtained any personal experience on that information. So a theory which might be completely false I would take as the truth. And this backfires if I meet somebody who knows what they're talking about. And then it seems that should I have this sense of not wanting to give up on an argument, saying that I'm sorry, but I don't really know, I'm just saying this, I'm blubbering, but it seems that for the sake of arguing and winning, I would argue even though I am completely clueless of the factual information. And if we look at the factual information, it seems that there are so many facts out there, an extreme amount. And it also seems that we twist those facts how it is comfortable for us. We twist and turn them in a very peculiar way depending on the situation or the argument. And it's funny how we do this. It's funny how I do this. Catching myself on that is a humbling experience, because when I look back to all the arguments which I have had with people and I was clueless about the subject matter, what was the point of arguing? Maybe the point was to make a point that I also know something even though I was clueless. This front line defense mechanism that immediately responds when someone knows better, and I'd like to also show that I know something. I make this amount of information, this very small amount of information, sound like I really know what I'm talking about. And it's interesting that I'm ready to fight for this very small amount of information to the ground. And I also noticed that if I was to know something, if I know more about a subject, I tend to question it a bit more, meaning if I had spent my time researching an area of expertise, if you will, or a subject matter, I tend to question my understanding more and more, understanding that there might be other facts that may come up that I don't know about, which means at that moment in time my argument no longer is through a win-win. As in, I don't particularly want to win the argument, but I would rather question myself whether I know this subject. I think I'm making it a little bit complicated right now. Let's see if I could simplify this a little bit more. If someone knows something about cars, for example, and I don't know a lot about cars, but I know enough, and that person and I have a conversation about cars, and then they say something about vehicles that I don't know. If I only knew this much, just a tiny little bit, I would argue about that. It seems that the less information I know, the more argument I wish to have. But then, the more I know about that subject, about cars, the more I have doubts about knowing. Maybe there's something I don't know. Maybe it seems that there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 causes of a certain activity in cars. Something is about to break or something, and then the car shows me signs, and I immediately think of factors that might cause that. But yet the more factors I know about, the more I doubt myself. And it seems that the less factors I know, the less I doubt myself. And I wonder how this works. It's fascinating how this works. And I suppose the humbling experience of not knowing and then finding out, or knowing and then the situation would show that I don't know anything. My plans are going to craps. And that's just how it is. I should make another plan based on what I see in front of me. The reality of things. Speaking of the reality, it was also interesting for me to find out that reality is something that every single person possesses of individually, meaning if you and I were to look at the same thing at the exact same time, you and I will most likely look or actually perceive this thing differently based on our previous experience, model of thought, and other factors. I would say mood would be part of that as well. But it's interesting how your reality and my reality could match and mismatch, or at least we could agree that our reality matches on something. Let's say you and I see a red car in front of us, and if I was to tell you that if you had a chance to imagine a red car, and then I would imagine a red car as well, you and I would imagine a completely different red car. Not to mention that it would have a completely different red, a feature of red, a color of red to it. And it's fascinating to observe that as well, isn't it? I mean, if you did test that, what you could do, and I've also done this and it's fascinating, is to ask somebody to look at an object and then ask them what is it that they see, and to genuinely match that with what you see in an object. And it's fascinating that two people could be looking at the same object and see different things. And then based on that, we then, I know I'm kind of sliding into the relationship situation, but how can we blame another person, our significant other? How can we blame them for not being able to understand us if we are so different when it comes to the understanding and seeing and composing a reality? It's fascinating, isn't it? Wouldn't it be easier to tell a significant other, for example, hey, this is what I need, can you do this for me? Instead of, I thought you knew. Don't we use that all the time, don't we? I thought you knew what I needed. I told you this so many times. Yeah. And suppose another person is not seeing what is needed. What is it that you need? But maybe we could set an example by doing and asking them, our significant other, what is it that you need that I can do for you? And that would be a good example that another person could also use. What do you need? What do you need me to do so that it makes you feel better? It makes you feel good with me. That would be good, wouldn't it? If another person who know themselves a little bit more would just tell you, hey, this is what I need. Yeah. Fascinating. Fascinating how our brains work. It's fascinating how our minds work. It's fascinating. It's fascinating how evolutionary this is taking place. A formation of the brain over a course of time. It somehow kind of grew up to be this thing. A thing that we think with, we perceive the world with, has its flaws, but it's adjusting to the environment. It fascinates me. But I think for a first random video about random things, this might be it. Me sitting here in my place of solitude philosophizing about things. And talking to the camera, thinking of the person, you who is watching this, whom I don't know, but can imagine and will be completely mistaken with how I would perceive you on the other side, simply due to the lack of information I have about you. I don't know much about you, but if you're watching this, I'm glad that you swung by and listened, watched, and enjoyed this little time of solitude with me, where I did all the talking. Yeah. Well, that would be the format, I suppose, for the upcoming videos, where I would just express my thoughts in them in this very chill, relaxing way, hopefully. And you'll get a chance to just chill with me here. I occasionally also post questions in the community section of my channel, and this was actually one of the questions I wanted to see if, based on a few options, what sort of videos would people be interested in. And it seems that a lot of people, a lot of voters voted for random talking, soft-spoken whispering videos. So I'm taking a leap of faith in that and doing my interpretation of random thoughts in soft-spoken video. And on that note, thank you for watching once again, and I guess I shall be seeing you in the next video.